All right, makeup check.
Looks perfect.
Yeah, hair looks good too.
Hair.
How about me?
I'm convinced, like, he's an alien. And I am. I'm like, this is his first time on this planet because he has no idea about anything. But he does have a high prey drive. Yeah. But yeah, it's all about the treats and patience, and not all dogs are down to do. But like, she is not really down to be a model. Like, she really isn't. She's like, no, not for me. So you can't. I don't like to force it. Like, if they don't want to be part of it, it's not happening. Whenever I photograph something and I'm obsessive about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what is it about this thing that's driving me like crazy in a way, And it's always some sort of reflection of what's going on in my life. I think I also really liked it as being this kind of diary. I was 12, graduating elementary school, and I asked my parents, can you please get me a Kodak disc camera? That's what I want. And it was, I don't know if you guys know what this is, but it was like a slim metal thing that you dropped like literally a disc into it. And it was kind of like a viewfinder thing, So anyway, you took pictures, and I just had to have this because everyone had it at the time. And I was super shy back then, so I would take pictures of boys that I had crushes on from like afar. Or like, where you do that thing where you have like the friends kind of stand near and you're taking a picture of your friend, but it's really the guy. And I would like make a mobile out of these photos of these guys that I liked that I couldn't talk to because I was so shy. And I would just lay there in bed and like, this mobile would spin with like pictures of this guy that I liked. Back then I wasn't thinking critically or theoretically at all about photography. I was just like, I need to have this thing, And then it wasn't really until college that I got into photography as like a serious, like, I love this and this is what I'm doing kind of thing. And I took my dad's Canon AE1, which was a manual 35 millimeter camera, and I loved it. And I just spent most of college in the darkroom, like all day in the darkroom. When I come out, it was still dark. It was dark. It was just like always dark in my life for like 2 years because I would wake up, go to the darkroom, and I just loved that magic of like seeing the image come up on the paper and and the fixer and developer and all that stuff. And but again, like I didn't think of it as like, oh, I'm gonna be a photographer, or like I just know I love it, and I want to study more. And I was learning about amazing women photographers like Cindy Sherman and Nan Golden and Sally Mann, all like, I was like, wow, like if they can do this, like I want to try. I think I discovered that it was a way for me to investigate the world that I'm living in, or like, how do I identify myself? And one of my earlier works was like really about identity and like being a Korean American, and how, I thought it was so cool that a cab driver called me and my friend beautiful China dolls. But really, it's like, I'm not Chinese, and like, but I'm like so focused on like, but he thought I was beautiful, and then you get older and you're like, yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you rethink those things, and that's what photography did for me. Like, it really kind of brought me into this different psychological space. I had an amazing professor that was really encouraging, and she encouraged me to do things that I didn't really feel comfortable doing, like take self-portraits, And I hate taking self-portraits. I hate like seeing myself. I'm like, I feel better on the other side, And now I'm like always in front of the camera, either with my dogs or like everyone's doing selfies. So it's so funny how that changes. But But yeah, she really encouraged me to try different things, and I think because of that, I really trusted her, and I really liked having that mentorship that I wasn't really seeking, So with the encouragement of my undergrad professor, I did apply to grad school and got in, and I went for like a semester, and I didn't feel like I was ready. But yeah, I was the youngest of like the 12 people that was in that program, and I didn't have the life experience I felt like to really take advantage of being in that kind of situation. So I withdrew, and I worked in the photo industry for many years before I went back to school. Then I was like, okay, now I have this experience, as a photographer, and also like in the business sense, because I was, working as a photo producer, and I was a photo agent, and I was organizing photo shoots all day long. Like I was a studio manager, so like I had this other experience that kind of informed me in the business sense, which was kind of cool. And it was like cool to meet celebrities and, go to fashion shows and all that stuff. As a 20-something-year-old in New York, you're like, yeah, this is so fun. Like, Jay-Z at the party? Cool, and but after a while, that too gets kind of like, you're like, I'm working my ass off. Like, I'm the first person on set, the last person to leave. No one says thank you. Like you're there making sure that everyone is happy and we're not going over budget. And you're like, I had like ulcers and getting gray hairs, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not curing cancer or like trying to make world peace. Like, we're just making photos here, people, but yeah, I think I burned out a little bit, and I was like, I want to go back to the art side of photography. And so that's when I applied to Pratt and got in, and it was awesome. And it felt like, at that point, it was like, okay, this feels so much better than when I wanted to go straight out of it, undergrad. I would give my painter friends my photographs, and I was like, do something with this. Like, paint on this, and then that became like, why don't we paint on it together? Or like let's put beads on this, or like, and I think in a way I started because I didn't like a print, and I was like, how can I make this better? Like, I know like there's potential in this print, but there's something about it I don't like. Like, I don't know, maybe there's like a crumpled up jacket in the corner that I didn't want there. So I'll just like paint over that, and then it looks better, and people just seemed to like that. And it was weird. Like I wasn't thinking like any, it just kind of happened organically. And then I really enjoyed how it was merging two different realities, because photography is so much about like truth and reality, what's real, if we're thinking about it in traditional sense, and let's leave AI and contemporary photo out for a second. But then once you layer paint over that, there's this new reality. And I like this idea of like, maybe there's multi-dimensional lives happening in this particular, scene, or and I guess you could do that in different ways. But for me, I think I like how painting is so textural. And I love to use my hands when I paint, like I'm not always using a brush. Not only is it like you're bonding with your animal, and I learned so much from my animals, as much as, I don't know, hopefully they learn from me, but I really think I learned from them so much more. But I think I really gravitated to the animals or the dogs specifically because, animals can't speak and they don't have a voice. And I think part of my childhood, I felt like I couldn't speak and I didn't have a voice, and because I was kind of bullied as a kid, like for being Korean or like being called a chink, having rocks thrown at us, and just like not being able to speak out about that. Like I was scared or like, I didn't want to make things worse. So I would just kind of like shrivel or like shrink and, and like just hope no one sees me kind of thing. And I just couldn't voice that. And I think that's also, it's like no accident I have huskies that like to scream all the time and howl. But yeah, I think that's also a huge draw for me with the animals because I feel like I can connect in that way. And also it's kind of about humanity and like how do we treat each other. And before having dogs, like I don't think I thought of that so much, like it was just like, oh, they're pets. And then I think because I was starting to change the way I was shooting with them even, like, like I said, getting on all fours with them, like it really shifted my perspective of like how, what their perspective is of us, and then because I was just shooting with them so much, I think they got used to like the camera. And it was like whenever the camera came out, they were like, oh, we're going to be doing something with Mom. So I collaborated with this other photographer. And actually, I think he was just using me for the dog, to be honest, because I barely did anything. But, all we had to go on was that the theme was pink. And so we had used a pink background, and we had a nude male model, and it was basically all about the dog. And then Nico, who was like my partner in crime in most of these photos, when he passed, like it, and as he was getting older, like I felt like, maybe I just wasn't feeling it, I guess, and then at the same time, my mom, has dementia, so I started kind of moving towards that as far as like, how am I feeling about this, and how's my family dealing with it, and dementia's so crazy because you're like, who is this person that looks like my mom but doesn't act like my mom, and I took a lot of photos from her when she was younger and blurred them and then painted over it because I felt like that really, for me, was representative of like how she was at that time.
June, if you don't call me back, I'll kill you. Warren, which is moi, will kill you. You just have to call me. This is a threatening phone call if you don't call me back.
The video was two kind of scenarios, and one of them was with Little at the gingerbread house, and the other video portion was clips of my mom, and it feels like the dog is anxious in that space, and my mom is also very anxious in her space because she is missing my dad and she doesn't know what's going on. And she's like picking up the Ring video as if it's like the Ring camera, thinking it's a phone because she can like hear his voice. And, and then she's going to the windows looking for him and she's like kind of pacing. And it's like, she's never done anything like that before the disease. And so it's like her level of anxiety has increased since the disease has progressed.
If you don't call me back, I'll kill you. You just have to call me. This is a threatening phone call if you don't call me back.
Overlaid on that is an answering machine message that a friend of mine had left when we were like, I'm going to say 9 or 10. Where are you? You better call me back. You better call me. And that was only like two out of like the 20 messages that she had left me. It was like this level of anxiety as a child, you know. So, and it's like all these levels of anxiety in different life stages that I felt brought it all together. It was really nice to hear from people that that they could really relate to it. But I think even if you don't have a relative or a friend that has the disease, I think you can still get a sense of that feeling of discomfort or disorientation, and I think that you can still relate to it in that way.
5 minutes, otherwise I'll kill you. You have to call me back. You have to call me back. Okay? You must call me back. Okay? Okay.
I don't know if this is quite answering your question, but when things became really digital, I guess I was a little bit disillusioned. But I think it's like when anytime there's new technology, people are a little bit resistant, right? Like, and I was like, I'm not giving up, you know, analog. No way. There's digital doesn't even come close. Like, film's so beautiful, and you know, whatever. But then I got a digital camera as a gift from one of the photographers I was working with, and he was like, I think you'd really like this. It's a point and shoot. It takes good pictures. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll try it. And what I realized was that it really saves space and money. You know, like, because I was living in a small New York City apartment, and I had just these boxes, I don't know if you could see them, full of contact sheets and negatives, but tons of it, you know, like garbage bags full of it. And I was like, I need more space, and having a digital camera will get rid of all this, and I can have space. And so I started kind of embracing digital. But then as things changed, phone cameras changed the landscape of photography so much. And I was seeing it even, with the photographers that I was working with, they used to make $25,000 a day for a ad campaign. And all of a sudden they weren't being hired, and they were just hiring Olivia B, who was 16 or something, and probably even less than half the rate that they were getting, and it was crazy, because they just found her on Tumblr or whatever it was that she was on. And so that was really kind of eye-opening, seeing these amazing photographers all of a sudden not being hired. And, so I think in that sense, it was kind of, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but I definitely was like, whoa, this is definitely a game changer, But as far as ever having given up on it, I don't think I gave up on it. If I gave up, it was only because of my own insecurities, where I would just be like, oh, I suck, I'm never making art again, and maybe a month goes by, and you're and an idea pops up, and you're like, fuck, I really want to try that, and then you're back at it again, without even realizing, so I don't know, I don't think I can say I've given up on photography, but I've definitely had those kind of moments where you're the insecurity creeps in, and you're like, I suck. I had shot digitally all through grad school, but when I just got my medium format fixed and I was able to use it, it was so exciting. I just was I love hearing the click and the mirror, flapping, and just the materiality of the film, and then seeing contact sheets. It's definitely a different experience because you can really feel the camera, and it feels like a part of you, and the hearing the sounds, and it's so much different than a DSLR or a point and shoot or something that's automatic, So I guess to answer your question, I'd probably prefer analog cameras. But I don't want to say they're better. For me, I think that it's it's like what I gravitate to, because I think aesthetically and experientially, that's what I like. Oh, where should I begin? I feel like there's so much to say, but also I think it's about never giving up. I can't even tell you how many rejections I've gotten, because I used to apply to like open calls and submissions and book projects or anything, and I have this like list of the things that I submit to, and it's like, no, yes, no. It's like, you just have to keep trying. But I will say that other than tenacity, it's also about connections. Anything I've had the opportunity to do has come because of someone, like some commonality. And that I think is so important to remember, to like nurture your relationships and keep your connections, and not just to like be opportunistic, but I think that it's about helping each other. And I'm always happy to help someone if I can, and I encourage all my students to apply for the same things I might be applying to. Like, that's, it's about helping each other. And, it's such a hard road otherwise, and you really, I think, have to love it to want to keep doing it, so it's passion and love and connection and tenacity. A little bit of tenacity. Oh, I also want to say, don't take yourself so seriously. Have fun and be playful.
This video is sponsored by Center for Maine Contemporary Art's Virtual Look Inside Educators Portal, made possible by the Sherman Family Foundation and KHR McNeely Family Foundation, the Dorothea and Leo Rapkin Foundation, and our generous viewers.